My NCNW sisters, brothers of the Charles L. Franklin Associates, sisters and brothers all in our extended family of the National Council of Negro Women. Even though it must be done virtually, I am extending the warmest possible greeting to each of you. It is my responsibility and my joy to speak with you on the state of our organization. With gratitude to our Creator, I am so pleased and proud to say that today our beloved National Council of Negro Women is strong and vibrant. And our organization is strong and vibrant despite the state of our country and our world. For as you know so well, we are living with multiple pandemics. There's COVID-19, a pandemic that reveals long-standing health disparities, income inequalities, and systemic racism, along with systemic sexism, that all disproportionately affect our community. We must take a moment now to acknowledge our brother George Floyd, our sister Breonna Taylor, and so many other Black women, men, and LGBTQ people who have been the victims of police violence. May their souls rest ever so peacefully. I want to take this opportunity to thank our national chaplain, Reverend Dr. Barbara Skinner, who throughout these days and months of raging pandemics continues to lift up mighty prayers for our NCNW members, our families, our communities, our nation, and yes, our world. Let us take courage. Let us take courage from these words that our founder, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, said about her times. For her words are equally applicable during these intensely challenging times that we are living in. Dr. Bethune said, if we have the courage and tenacity of our forebears, who stood firmly like a rock against the lash of slavery, we shall find a way to do for our day what they did for theirs. With the courage and tenacity of Dr. Bethune, we have come together in this 59th convention that none of us ever imagined we would hold virtually. But you know, my sisters, the very act of doing so is an expression of the theme of this convention. For such a time as this, a call for resilience and resurgence. 2 years ago, when I respectfully stood for election to serve as NCNW's 7th president and chair of the National Board, I fully acknowledged the work of all of our past presidents, and I do so again today. Of course, I lifted up our unending gratitude for the leadership of our iconic 4th president, Dr. Dorothy Irene Height. I acknowledge the work of our 5th president, Dr. Barbara Shaw. And I said, indeed, that we are, indeed we are, in the strong and vibrant condition that we are in because of the work of our seventh president and chair of the National Board, Ms. Ingrid Saunders Jones. When Ms. Jones, whom I call my sister leader, would ask, "How is NCNW doing?" we would proudly reply, "NCNW is alive. NCNW is well, and NCNW is solvent." Because NCNW was, as Sister Leader Ingrid Saunders Jones would say, alive, well, and solvent, 2 years ago I could call for our organization to boldly move forward in 2 ways. 1, to make sure that NCNW has a seat at tables where social justice is on the agenda. And 2, to do what is required for the National Council of Negro Women to become a more intergenerational organization. My sisters and the righteous brothers who are with us, we have accomplished a great deal in terms of these 2 goals. We have done so because of the dedicated work of our board of directors and our executive committee, because of the dedicated work of our affiliates, sections, and guilds, and yes, the work of the associates and our National Council of Negro Women headquarters staff. There's so much truth in that African proverb that says, when spider webs unite, they can even tie up a lion. During these past 2 years, NCNW has indeed taken a seat at many tables that were set nationally and in our sections to address a social justice agenda. Without attempting to note each time over the past 2 years when NCNW has been invited to such tables, or, as Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm said, when not invited, we have pulled up a folding chair to the table. Here are a few of the times when we have been present and accounted for because women's rights and civil rights were on the agenda. A noteworthy example is that Minority Whip Congressman James Clyburn chose to focus his second inaugural podcast on a conversation with me on the life and legacy of Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune. NCNW was prominently represented when I was asked to speak on the program that the Congressional Black Caucus convened in a hall of Congress to commemorate the arrival in 1619 of enslaved Africans. The arrival of our ancestors on the shores of what was then British Virginia. Yes, NCNW was clearly on a national stage when I spoke at the Women's March. And NCNW had a seat on the float in the Rose Bowl Parade that commemorated the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment. Sister Executive Director Janice Mathis and I are very involved with an intergenerational collective called #Win with Black Women. This group is effectively led by young Black women from many sectors in our country. NCNW is often invited by the leadership of some of our affiliate organizations to have a seat at tables where social justice is on the agenda. Those invitations are just one example of the important work that Vice President Dr. Thelma T. Daly carries out with our 32 affiliate organizations. NCNW continues to work collaboratively with our long-standing partners like the NAACP, the Urban League, the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation, and the Black Women's Roundtable. And we are in the process of establishing a partnership with Atlanta Life Insurance Company. Over the course of the past 2 months, we have been working closely with 2 recently organized groups. One of these groups is called Sisters United for Reform. It is a convening of 13 presidents of national Black women's organizations. The other group is the United Nations African Diaspora Network, whose board is chaired by our own Honorable Sister Constance B. Newman. I want to acknowledge the dedicated work of Sister Fannie Mullen, who continues to serve as the liaison for NCNW at the United Nations, where our organization has held observer status since 1946. One of the programs that NCNW is involved in is a worldwide campaign to end violence against women and girls. Such an important campaign tied to the United Nations. I should also note that our executive committee approved the signing of a memorandum of understanding with the National Network to End Domestic Violence. As you know, my sisters, you know from the work you are carrying out, NCNW has been fully engaged in nationwide campaigns to encourage Black participation in the 2020 census and to mobilize Black people to vote. Because our community is among the demographic groups that are traditionally undercounted when the census is taken every 10 years, many of our Black communities do not receive their fair share of the up to $1.5 trillion in federal funding for schools, for infrastructure improvements such as roads, and safety net programs such as WIC. And being undercounted in the census can also lead to our communities losing political power, such as representation in state legislatures and in Congress. To address these very serious concerns, NCNW is in a formal partnership with Fair Count, an organization founded by leader Stacey Abrams, an organization founded to mobilize around the 2020 census. Our particular partnership, that is NCNW's particular partnership, is called Sisters for the Census, a civic engagement campaign that works toward the goal of ensuring that Black women, our children, our families, are fairly and accurately counted in the 2020 census. Of course, NCNW is intensely engaged with efforts to educate and mobilize Black people to vote. We must mobilize ourselves and others to vote as if our lives depend on it, because indeed our lives do depend on it. Drawing on the language of young people, our sister executive director, Janice Mathis, imagined and then organized a program called Adulting 101. The goal of this program is to educate young Black Americans at our historically Black colleges and universities, to educate our young folk about citizenship and to incentivize them to engage in adulting, that is, to be responsible adults by voting. Last week, our first Adulting 101 was hosted by Wilberforce and Cheyney Universities. The Adulting 101 video posted on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube has garnered more than 17,000 views since September 17th. We are in collaboration with a number of organizations that are also involved in getting out the Black vote, including Miss Oprah Winfrey's Own Your Vote, First Lady Michelle Obama's organization that is titled When We All Vote, and Get Out the Vote efforts by the National Coalition of Black Civic Participation. 2 years ago, the second charge that I issued to our organization was this: the National Council of Negro Women must become more intergenerational. Many years ago, our founder, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, spoke of the importance of intergenerationality when she said this: we have a powerful potential in our youth, and we must have the courage to change old ideas and practices so that we may direct their power toward good ends. As I think about why and how NCNW can become more intergenerational, I'm inspired by the story of how young our honorable sister Alexis Herman was when she joined NCNW. And let us remember that Dr. Dorothy Irene Height was 25 years old when she first met Dr. Bethune and engaged with the organization that she would go on to lead so brilliantly and effectively. For NCNW to become more intergenerational requires increasing the numbers of members who are young women. However, that's the easiest part of this highly important process. The more difficult work involves figuring out how to bring together the wisdom of seasoned members and the innovative spirit of younger members, to bring them together in a way that is built on mutual acceptance and respect. When that does happen, the result is it's a beautiful and powerful collaboration that is described in an African proverb that says, "The young can go fast, but the elders know the way." I am one of the oldest members of our organization, and I am very aware that the long-term vitality and sustainability of NCNW requires that we have a far more age-balanced membership. A membership that is more balanced in terms of those of us that I call our roots, and young women who I call our wings. So what progress have we made in the past 2 years in our ongoing effort to become a more intergenerational organization? Here are just 5 specific ways that we can see change on this question. 1, more younger NCNW members are in leadership positions on national committees, and more young members are in state and section leadership positions. 2, in our Sisters magazine, there's a definitive increase in the number of articles by younger members and an increase in articles on topics of particular interest to our wings. 3, NCNW now has far more presence on the social media platforms where our younger members are ever so actively engaged. 4, throughout this 59th convention, there will be substantially more involvement of younger NCNW members than ever before. And 5, at the last meeting of the Executive Committee, there was unanimous support of a proposal presented by a group of our wings who have been working steadily with our membership committee. Our wings have named themselves the Two-Litty Committee. You've got to know their language to get it. They seek to substantially increase the number of collegiate and young adult members who transition into membership and committed engagement in our state and section formations. I am grateful to NCNW members Shara Denton, Ariana Brazier, Ariane Jameson, and Sharon Glasgow for their leadership on this very important effort. And I'm also grateful for the way that the co-chairs of the membership committee, Dr. Lois Keith and Miss Diane Larche, are working so beautifully and effectively in this collaboration of roots and wings. I turn now to address the state of our organization as reflected in a number of specific actions and programmatic initiatives that have been launched and sustained over the past 2 years. As we continue to proudly and accurately say that NCNW continues to be financially solvent, there is no small amount of work required to make that true, given the challenges associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the constraints caused by that pandemic, under the very able leadership of co-chairs Miss Johnny Walker, and Miss Donna Michelle Fields, our Bethune-Heights Recognition Program continues to bring together NCNW members statewide and honors distinguished community leaders. During the celebratory Bethune-Heights Recognition programs, substantial financial contributions are made to the financial health of the National Council of Negro Women. We have recently launched the President's Circle to engage interested NCNW members in special conversations and programmatic opportunities. Joining the President's Circle requires a $1,000 annual contribution to our organization. These contributions are a source of funds to NCNW, a source of funds that is not constrained by grant requirements. I appreciate the many ways that Ms. Summerlin Stovall serves as my special assistant, and I'm especially pleased that she's playing such an important role in the advancement of our President's Circle. Last year, under the chairship of Honorable Alexis Herman, our Uncommon Height Gala was a highly successful event, financially and in terms of presenting an engaging and meaningful evening program. NCNW's Finance Committee, chaired by Honorable Constance B. Newman, with Treasurer Beverly Beavers Brooks and Assistant Treasurer Dr. Linda Hunt as members, carefully provides financial analysis, advice, and oversight of our organization's budget. And this committee assures that NCNW is operating with the financial resources needed for our programs and services to function well. We're exceedingly fortunate to count among our great assets the Dorothy I. Height building that proudly stands as the only building owned by Black people, specifically Black women, the only building owned by Black people that is between the White House and the Capitol. Attention to our historic and priceless property is the work of our building committee, chaired by Ms. Darrell McKissick, with full engagement by committee members, Honorable Constance B. Newman and Mr. J.C. Cole. The heart of our organization is, of course, our membership. While the COVID-19 pandemic is creating challenges to this highly important component of our organization, those challenges are being met thanks to our membership committee co-chaired, as I mentioned a little ago, by Dr. Lois Keith and Ms. Diane Larche. And I want to acknowledge the REACH, R-E-A-C-H initiative, an initiative to recruit new members, an initiative that is led by Ms. Ariane Jameson. David Glenn, our Director of Membership, continues to head our staff's involvement in efforts to recruit, sustain, and grow our membership, currently at over 2 million women of African descent. Brother D, as I call him, assisted by our sister, Miss Melinda Todd, they are successfully instituting our new membership database. Over the course of the past 2 years, we have expanded our headquarters staff with 5 new positions. We've reassigned one of our treasured colleagues, and we've engaged a fundraising consultant. Ms. Crystal Ramsour joined our headquarters staff as NCNW's first Chief Administrative Officer. Sister CAO is supported by her administrative assistant, Miss Jocelyn Coombs. And how pleased we are that Ms. Ramsour is making such a substantial difference in fine-tuning how we function administratively and financially. Ms. Michelle Holder, who carries so much of the institutional memory of our organization, is now working directly in Ms. Ramsour's area as our office manager and coordinator of volunteers. Attorney Janice Mathis, our amazingly capable and effective executive director, is now able to give greater attention to the heart of NCNW's mission as carried out in our 4 program areas. And our sister ED Janice Mathis joins with me and Miss Carla Maxwell Ray, our fundraising consultant, in securing funds for our organization. Sister ED is ably supported by her new administrative assistant, Miss Driana Perkins. Thanks to Kevin Johannes, NCNW's Director of Communications, our organization has far more visibility in the traditional media and certainly on social media platforms. Working with Ms. Sandra Green, our in-house graphics designer, Brother Johannes has made our major publication, Sisters Magazine, completely green because it is now only published online. We've recently brought Ms. Kayla Allen onto our headquarters staff as an assistant to our Director of Communications. And this week, Ms. Rosalind Hannibal Booker is joining our headquarters staff as NCNW's Director of Philanthropy. We look forward to the work she will do that will bring long-standing relationships between NCNW and the philanthropic community into fruition. There's an impressive increase in the engagement of NCNW members and friends on committees that I have appointed over the past 2 years. These include the Committee for the Future, co-chaired by Deborah Walls Foster and Cheryl Poinsett Brown, a committee to draft a vision statement chaired by Vice President Dr. Helena Johnson, the Committee on Board Engagement, chaired by E. Tanya Greenwood, the Fund Development Committee, chaired by Regina Majors, a Committee on Performance Evaluation, chaired by Honorable Sister Patricia Watkins Lattimore. There is the Committee on Young Adult and Collegiate Membership Transition, chaired by Shara Denton, Ariana Brazier, and Ariane Jameson. And of course, as we move into our 85th anniversary celebration, it has been my honor and pleasure to appoint an honorary 85th Anniversary Committee. Now, during Ingrid Saunders Jones' presidency, the associates were formed as a men's membership wing of NCNW. In 2019, the associates were more fully organized under the chairship of Harry Johnson and James D. Staten. And the associates formally adopted as their name the Charles L. Franklin Associates. Programmatically, NCNW continues to be highly engaged around four foci that were imagined and carried out during the presidency of our immediate past president, Ms. Ingrid Saunders Jones. The programmatic work of the four foci is now enthusiastically and powerfully under the direction of co-chairs of the program committee, Ms. Paulette Norvell-Lewis and Dr. Tamara Wiles-Lawson. In connection with our focus on education, particularly STEAM in Georgia, South Carolina, and New York, as well as in numerous sections, there are activities associated with increasing the engagement of Black girls and women in STEAM. Girl Tech is a program that attracted a following of more than 2,000 individuals. Last year, we introduced nearly 3,000 high school students to college life during an NCNW tour of 8 historically Black colleges and universities. Our focus on financial literacy and entrepreneurship is in high gear through the bi-monthly Women's Economic Empowerment and Millennial Entrepreneurs webinars organized and led by our Sister Executive Director, Attorney Janice Mathis. In direct response to the current COVID-19 pandemic, we've increased our focus on health disparities that Black women experience, and we have launched a new webinar series titled Healing Our Children. Our deep involvement with public policy and civic engagement is at a high pitch during this period of the 2020 census, and of course, during this period of elections up and down the ballot. We're grateful to our civic engagement and public policy co-chairs, Dr. Elsie Scott and Ms. Mignon Moore, for their guidance in this area. My sisters, my brothers, my siblings all, as I bring closure on this state of our organization, I and you can proudly say that NCNW is fortified by the past. And in addition to our glorious history and her story, we are firmly planted in a vision for the future. That vision includes an anticipated report from the Committee for the Future that will help the National Council of Negro Women to move upward and onward. I thank you for listening to this state of our organization, and I invite each of you, my sisters, my brothers, my siblings all, come, let us move forward, doing the work, I dare say, the sacred work of the National Council of Negro women.